Well, welcome, ladies and gentlemen. A vicious snowstorm is on the way in the Middle East, not the Middle East, in New Hampshire. In New Hampshire, there's a hotel, the Mount Washington Hotel.
Okay.
And it's at the north part of the state. And it's a little place, the voting booth is called Dixville Notch.
Dixville Notch.
It's the first polling place that is open in the day. So they announced the results of Dixville Notch.
Already?
Already. And so they're hotel employees, so they split for Trump, they split for Kasich, and they split for Rubio. I went up there, if you can believe it, and you shake hands with all those cooks, and you think, well, surely one of those cooks will vote for me. Not a single vote did I get from Dixville Notch.
You came in 5th in New Hampshire, right?
I did. I was tied with the governor of Delaware, Pete DuPont. It was terrible. My campaign manager didn't do his job, and he then later confessed that, you know, I didn't do everything. I told you I'd done all this stuff, and I did none of it. So it was terrible. But anyhow, the polls are open. It looks like it's going to be Trump and somebody, and there's a tremendous fight for second place in New Hampshire.
Who's your call?
Kasich is coming on really strong. He campaigned like crazy up there. He went all over the state, and they really respond to him. So we'll see. He might come in second. We'll see.
Well, Socialist Bernie Sanders will possibly beat Hillary Clinton among the Democrats. The big question for Republicans may not be who will win, but who will finish near the top and stay in the race. David Brody brings us the story from the Granite State.
For months, Donald Trump has been the clear frontrunner in New Hampshire, and if polls ring true, the Donald could see his first primary win.
We need the proper leadership, and we don't have it now.
Second place is a bigger question. Iowa caucus winner Ted Cruz has a shot. His evangelical message played well in Iowa. Here in the live free or die state, he's talking more like a libertarian.
The men and women in this room love this country, love liberty, love the Constitution. The men and women in this room, I believe, I know, will crawl over broken glass with a knife between your teeth, fighting to save this country.
Marco Rubio, a strong third finisher in Iowa, would be very happy with second in New Hampshire. Negative reviews from his weekend debate performance, however, could lead to a possible slide. He was criticized for continually repeating a rehearsed attack line against President Obama. But Rubio says he's moving on.
Oh, why do you keep saying the same thing about Obama trying to change America? I'm going to keep saying that a million times because I believe it's true.
The political terrain here in New Hampshire is much different than that of Iowa. In New Hampshire, they're talking more about economic solutions rather than the fiery rhetoric on social issues in Iowa. And that means more candidates have emerged here in the Granite State. One of them is John Kasich. He's spending a lot of time here. As a matter of fact, he's done over 100 town halls because he's hoping to strike it big. Kasich wants to be the candidate of common sense solutions, and he's preaching compassionate conservatism, too.
When we listen to one another and help one another, we make such a stronger and better world, don't we? And a more beautiful world.
Two other governor types, Jeb Bush and Chris Christie, also want to be seen as an alternative to Trump or Cruz. It's worth watching which one gets noticed. For Democrats, Bernie Sanders is positioned for victory over Hillary Clinton. His socialist talk appeals to the left-leaning crowd up here. We will see if it's a match made in political heaven. There is clear interest with a record turnout in Iowa, and state officials here expect record-breaking totals, too. As for the outcome, the Granite State can be unpredictable because nearly half of all voters are either undeclared or independent. That means they can vote Republican or Democrat, and many won't decide until the last moment.
There's a lot of good candidates, but I've whittled it down to three to four candidates right now. I'm actually going to go back and YouTube Saturday night's debate and rewatch the 90 minutes again.
Tonight, voters like that will likely write the next chapter in this presidential novel. David Brody, CBN News, in Manchester, New Hampshire.
Well, when I was up there, it was known as a conservative state, live free or die, and there were big things that said this is Reagan country. Ronald Reagan is the one who said, you know, I paid for that microphone, and that was the line that won him the election up there in New Hampshire. It's an interesting state, but because so many people have moved over from Massachusetts, more left-wing, if I can use that term. Usually the governor of Massachusetts has an edge in New Hampshire, and those in the southern tier down around Nashua are much more liberal than those up in the North Country, but there's just not that many people in the North Country. So it isn't quite like it used to be, but we'll see what happens, whether it actually represents America or whether it's an outlier. We don't know yet. But whoever the next president is, he or she will have to deal with big federal deficit left behind by President Obama. Now, that president is trying to, quote, cut the deficit by raising taxes, but the amount of money he wants to spend is monumental. John Jessup has that story.
Pat, President Obama introduces his 2017 federal budget today, and with the deficit projected to climb back above $4 trillion, it does include some new taxes. The budget comes in above $4 trillion, and one of the tax increases is a $10 fee per barrel of oil. The president says some of that money would go for research for clean transportation projects and new energy sources. The budget is also certain to include new taxes on businesses and wealthier Americans. Today's release coincides with the New Hampshire primary, a day on which it will get little attention. Well, the clashes between religious freedom and gay rights have been on the rise in recent years, and the trend may still increase after the Supreme Court's legalization of same-sex marriage. Right now, more than a dozen state legislatures are moving to protect the religious freedom of their citizens. Chuck Holton brings us this look at the work to protect those rights in West Virginia.
West Virginians take their religious liberties and their religious rights very seriously, and they want to see us ensure that those are protected.
It might be snowy outside here in Charleston, West Virginia, but it's heating up inside the state capitol. The State House is taking up a Religious Freedom Restoration Act, similar to the one that caused so much controversy in Indiana in 2015. Tim Armstead is Speaker of the House in West Virginia.
It's not creating a new right. It's not taking away anyone's rights. It's just restating what our Constitution already guarantees and what truly natural laws and God-given rights are in our country.
People of West Virginia have just had enough, and they're reacting to this big government overreach in every area of our lives.
John O'Neill is a former basketball coach who has served in the state legislature since 2011.
We believe that West Virginians should be free to live and work according to their faith without being in danger of being punished by their government.
O'Neill points out the Constitution's language is clear.
It doesn't guarantee anyone's right to not be offended. It doesn't guarantee anyone's right to have any particular kind of lifestyle or behavior protected, but it guarantees the free exercise of religion.
That freedom has been severely curtailed in recent years with the growth of gay rights and mandated contraception coverage under Obamacare, among other things. But these politicians believe the time is right for the Mountain State to push back.
In January of 2011, when I was elected, there were 35 Republican members out of 100, and today there are 64. Without a doubt, most West Virginians are very disappointed in the war on West Virginia jobs and the war on West Virginia values.
O'Neill knows it will be controversial.
Well, I fully expect that there'll be a spirited opposition. This happens any time that people try to stand up for constitutional freedoms and really to take a stand for faith and values issues.
Various groups want the bill to become law and recently came to the Capitol from across the state to show their support.
We definitely have the support of the majority of our members, and I think the overwhelming majority of our members. Then it'll be up to the governor to determine if he's going to sign this bill. He could let it become law without his signature, or he could veto it. And if he chooses to veto the bill, then we'll go to work right away to overturn the veto, because in West Virginia, it only requires a simple majority to override a governor's veto. So we believe if we've got the votes to pass the bill, we've got the votes to override the veto.
21 states now have laws on the books that limit the government's ability to punish people for living out their faith in public. But opponents of these bills say that they provide an avenue for discrimination, and these two contradictory worldviews are not going to be reconciled easily.
We would certainly appreciate the prayers of the people across this country that we will do what's right and show the courage that's needed to take this across the finish line.
From Charleston, West Virginia, I'm Chuck Holton for CBN News.
Pat, it sure looks like the bill is well on its way to pass the State House.
Hey, I was born in Lexington, Virginia, right near the West Virginia border, and you worked in West Virginia for the governor. Are you proud of your folks over there?
I'm so proud. West Virginia leading the way.
Hey.
Whereas, you know, there are a lot of Democrats in West Virginia, as you know, but they're conservative Democrats, and they're usually the states that vote Republican in the presidential election. But I'm so proud that they're standing up for our freedoms and leading the way.
Well, they're good folks. Great folks. All right, West Virginia, we salute you. John.
Pat, a wind-driven winter storm that brought several inches of snow to southeastern Massachusetts Monday is now expected to bring snow to other parts of the East Coast. It's the second winter storm in 4 days to hit the Northeast. And as Ephraim Graham reports, it's leaving its own mark.
Monday evening meant digging out in parts of Massachusetts, where the latest winter storm brought several inches of snow.
In my backyard, they're up to 4 feet high. But just snow blowing now, it's probably 5 inches.
Pretty much here, we're just chasing the drifts on the coast, but inland, I'm sure they're probably getting buried.
Earlier in the day, the storm surge flooded waterfront streets.
Yeah, it was a lot higher than usual. Like, it was going over the seawall like a few hours before even high tide. Yeah, it's pretty standard, you know, it gets pretty flooded over here. They'll block off that area.
The wind-driven snowstorm led to a string of accidents. In Connecticut, a charter bus carrying dozens of passengers from New York City to a Connecticut casino crashed and fell on its side on an icy Interstate 95. At least 30 people were injured, 6 of them critically.
We had a little extricating to do. We had some guardrails that went through the bus.
And the storm is not over. The National Weather Service says northern New England could get 4 to 8 inches of snow by late today or early Wednesday. New York City, Philadelphia, and New Jersey could see more snow as well. But by the time the storm ends, eastern Massachusetts and Rhode Island could get up to 9 inches of snow. Ephraim Graham, CBN News.
Some wild winter weather. Pat, back to you.
Well, it's crazy. I don't think that's going to affect the balloting in New Hampshire, from what I gather, but it's just one of those other things. Some people may use an excuse to stay home. Wendy?
I hope we get some snow down here.
Yeah, it won't. It will flurries. We'll just get flurries.
I know.
All right.